Hello and welcome to NDTV Profit. Blackstone is completing 20 years in India, and with me today is Steve Schwarzman, co-founder, chairman, and CEO of Blackstone Group. Steve, thank you very much for joining us on NDTV Profit. It's been 20 years in India, and Blackstone has completed 40 years globally as well. How has been the journey in India for you?
The journey in India has been fascinating, actually. When we decided to come here the first time in 2005, we announced that we were going to be having an objective to invest $1 billion in India. And at that time, that was a huge amount of money. And we ended up being on the front page of every newspaper in the country, on television. It was very unusual and unexpected for us. And now, of course, we've grown massively here in India, one of the top 10 business houses in the country. We've aspirations to be much, much bigger over the next 5 to 10 years. We've learned how to work in India. It's not like everywhere else. And we actually didn't have great success our first few years. And what we realized was that we weren't doing what we used to do. What we do almost everywhere else in the world is when we're buying companies, we buy the whole company. So sometimes the people who sell it to us keep some of it. And then we decide, how can we make this business grow better? Because Blackstone are business builders. And we started out buying minority interests, which is what people were doing at that time. And what we found out is that was a frustrating strategy for us. And it didn't always have a good outcome. And so we changed what we were doing. And we went back to our roots around the world. And we said, okay, India is different in a lot of ways. But controlling and managing a business is pretty much similar around the world. And once we made that change, we've done amazingly well. And our results in India are our best any place in the world. And we've grown to be the largest foreign company in India, the largest owner of real estate in the country, the largest leverage buyout firm, private equity firm, you call them now, in the country. And it's been a remarkable experience. And you don't do that without having amazing people working in India. And what we've learned is that the talent pool here of extraordinary people is very high. So we feel very lucky to have been here. We were here really early. I always thought India would be an interesting place. When I grew up, my father had been in India for World War II. He was in Calcutta and for the U.S. Army. And I had a little jar of carved ivory that he brought home with pictures of elephants on it. So I grew up looking at that every day. And so I always wondered, what it would be like. So I had this very positive feeling about India just from childhood. And it's turned out to be an absolutely wonderful experience for us at Blackstone. And we're going to be bringing more of our business areas here.
And I would like to speak to you about that because you've been able to adapt to the Indian conditions, grow your portfolio in India to $50 billion. Globally, you have an asset base of $1.1 trillion. And when I say that in 20 years, you've been able to grow it from $1 billion, which you first envisaged, to $50 billion now, what is new that Blackstone is going to bring to India with respect to the kind of investments, thematics, sectors? What is new which is going to come in the next 20 years maybe?
No, things will happen faster than 20. We continue building great companies here that we acquire and continue building our real estate. We will probably be bringing at some point our credit business. Around the world, we've extended about $450 billion of credit, and we have nothing here in India. And the India economy is quite vital, and so it's logical that we should want to do that. Another area that's interesting in India is infrastructure. We have a marvelous infrastructure firm, within Blackstone. And so this is another logical area that we can look at. A third one is we sell products, investment products around the world to what's called the private wealth area, which is individuals. And we think over time that would be a wonderful thing to do here. So those are only three things in addition to the two huge areas which people see us now as very substantial and large. But I remember when we had nothing. And so you can build very substantial businesses in a country like India because of the growth, because of the flexibility of the people, because of their intelligence, because the government is improving the ability to do business here. It's never been easy. India is a complex place, which everybody knows, but it's becoming slowly a little less complicated. So I think the central government here has made a lot of strides under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi.
Steve, over the last 40 years, you began as a property fund and then transitioned yourself into various sectors, which you spoke about as well, that you want to bring to India, which is infra, private credit, in thematics, you have data centers, others. What has been the kind of experience that you have when you moved out and diversified from just being the largest real estate owner to other thematics?
Well, you have to be curious in life, and I've always been interested in when things are changing, and I like to try and figure that out as soon as I can with as little information as I can. So to enable that at Blackstone, what we do is we have all of our business units meeting every Monday. And there are about 6 of us who sit at a big table, and each group comes in. We learn about everything they're doing, in terms of new deals, new investments, problems, or good pieces of luck with our existing investments. And because each one of our groups operates globally, that we learn things by the end of a day, sitting at a table, of how the world is changing. And little pieces of information have enormous power. Most people, when they hear something that is inconsistent with what they have seen or believe, don't have any interest in that piece of information. They just keep doing the same thing. The way we're trained is that little piece of information that's inconsistent is the pathway to change happening. And we just have to figure that out. And as soon as we figure it out, then we say, okay, where else in the world is that same change that other people don't see going to be happening? And then we either buy something there or we sell something because something bad's going to happen. And that exploration is fascinating. And that's what gives us an edge. And once you see that something's happening, you absolutely moved to accomplish what that tells you. You don't hesitate. You don't consult 5 other people. You know that that's happening. And that ability, that predisposition to action with paradigm changes is what's enabled us over time, along with great people, to accomplish something that is very rare in the business world.
You being one of the early movers for strategic shifts, data centers being one of them. What is your view on how data centers business is going? Within Blackstone, you have nearly $80 billion of assets in data centers. And I think, if I'm not wrong, another $100 billion under development. So how do you see the data center business growing? And where do you see India in the whole scheme of things?
Well, the data center industry is going to continue to grow rapidly because artificial intelligence is going to grow rapidly, and you cannot have artificial intelligence without data centers because that's where the computations and the computer is located. And so if you believe in artificial intelligence, which I do, and so do almost everyone who knows something about it, then data centers will expand in terms of scale. The conventional wisdom is that there'll be $1 trillion more of data centers built in the United States over the next 5 years, and $1 trillion outside the United States. Right now, India is quite small in that regard, probably for a variety of reasons. That will change over time. So these are early days for India. And we have a company here doing that. We bought another company in Australia that's actually much bigger. We've made a commitment here in India to put $11 billion into data centers. So this will be a trend that increases over time here. And as I say, it's early days.
You mentioned the fact that artificial intelligence will play a big role going forward, and you're very bullish on artificial intelligence. There's a huge debate which is going on the cost of artificial intelligence. Do you think that investments into artificial intelligence will continue? And as cost efficiency brings in more low-cost AI into it, the use of data centers will increase going forward?
Oh, I think that's all true. I think the power of the artificial intelligence movement, if you will, is going to be growing at a very accelerated rate. You're just seeing the beginnings of that. One of the experts told me that, ChatGPT, which was the first artificial intelligence application that the public saw, it was like a very smart person, maybe an IQ of 180 to 200. The experts have told me that 180 to 200 IQ for artificial intelligence is going to end up as 12,000 IQ. If you can imagine dealing with something that has a 12,000 IQ, just let your mind wander as to all the things that can do to help you have a better life and have interesting experiences. It's really stunning to think about that. And that should be happening as soon as we can let the technology develop, which will happen over the next 10 years, and build as many data centers as the system can take, because they consume a lot of electricity. So different countries will start running out of electricity in the developed world. Imagine what all of that can create for the human being. Some amazing stuff, accelerated drug development so people will have, better health, better lives, uh, different ways of developing education, through your smartphone, which will be particularly good for a country like India, where the wealth of the country is besides being uneven, there's only a $3,000 GDP per capita. So there are lots of people who could use enhancements in their life, and the people who are experts in AI believe that they'll be able to deliver for that cohort of people. How wonderful will that be if people's lives can be improved?
If AI is going to have an IQ of 12,000, where does it leave all the tech companies?
Well, where does it leave humans? Where it leaves humans is wanting to have a friend that's AI, that can do things that we can't do. To in a commercial setting, in terms of doing research, that AI will be able to do things that take weeks of work. You can do that in 5 minutes or less. So it will increase the human's ability to accomplish things.
Mhm. You mentioned in one of your answers that the world has changed, and the world is changing now drastically in the last couple of quarters. There is issues of growth, inflation, interest rate, you have tariff, all those coming into play, and that changes the dynamics in which businesses flourish or work. How do you navigate this kind of volatility, given that you have seen the entire cycle of business for the last 40 years?
Well, there are certain things that people get very excited about because they're happening today, and they weren't happening 6 months ago. So they think that will be exceptionally disruptive, or they sometimes get overly worried about certain things that I've seen over time. The system adjusts to those. And we have a number of things going on, as you mentioned, at the moment. So you're seeing securities markets respond to those uncertainties, mostly by going down, but not everywhere. Europe, which was a real laggard economically, is going up. And China, which was very much a laggard, its securities markets are going up. So different parts of the world get affected in different ways. I've found it's important to try and figure out where you think the biggest impact will be. Try and get a sense of how long a period of uncertainty will exist. I don't get excited when things go down when they should. Uh, and, there are a lot of people who try and change that trend by changing behavior. And so as humans, we tend to think things move in straight lines. And we extrapolate either things that are bad, they're going to be terrible, or things that are really good, they're going to go on forever. I've learned that trees do not grow to the sky, and the world is also not ending. And so figuring out which of those trends are short-term, you can take advantage of that. Most people get so worried they almost panic and they stop doing anything. That's the wrong answer. And so I've seen a lot of cycles, and you usually can tell where you are in that. and you don't buy things right away. You let it get bad. And then when everybody else is sort of really, really worried, that's usually a time when things are going to switch. And that's when we try and invest.
Is this a new normal for the world?
Well, it's a new normal because technology and the use of the internet is taking reactions that never would have happened, and now they become shared by groups. And so that increases volatility because of the instant communication that we have. We used to read newspapers to find out what was going on. It's a huge lag with that. Then we went to television, which has the ability to reach people simultaneously. And now everybody has their own little communications network, and they get things immediately. And that's how Silicon Valley Bank went bankrupt, because somebody said, I think they might go bankrupt. And in a few hours, that was communicated to other people who said, give me my money now. There was nothing wrong with Silicon Valley Bank, which was the second biggest bankruptcy in US history. What was wrong is that everybody could take their money out at the same time. So that kind of almost harmonic move introduces risk and change. So you have to be aware that when certain things happen, sometimes they end up over the short term having a bigger amplification factor. But I'm comfortable with that just because that's the way the world is. So you have to manage, people's money in a way that protects them from that kind of overreaction.
Steve, I'm running out of time, but my final question to you is, as a business leader, how do you navigate, and what is the kind of message that you have for the business, small businesses and big emerging businesses in India to navigate this volatility?
Well, I think with India, because there isn't as much of that connectivity as there is in the developed world. That India has some natural protections. They also have quite good regulators who are alert to protect, their society. So if I were a small business person, I would not worry because India has shown that it can grow through virtually every one of the problems that have affected the wider world. And maybe they'll grow a little slower run here. It's not the end. So I think that the prospects for India are very good, despite the fact the stock market's been sloppy here over the near term. It was probably a bit frothy and overvalued before. And India's been around, for thousands and thousands of years. And it's always been a major country. And as a small business person, you have good government. You have a lot of very positive things here. And I'd be happy to be here.
Steve, it was a pleasure talking to you, and congratulations again, 20 years in India and many more to go.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.